Imagine a world submerged, a great deluge washing away all civilization. This isn't just a story from the Bible. Cultures across every continent share strikingly similar tales of a cataclysmic flood. What if these aren't just myths, but echoes of a forgotten global event? Hey everyone, today we're going to dive deep into one of humanity's oldest and most universal stories, great flood tales, remarkably similar narratives coming from every continent, every culture, civilizations that developed completely independently from each other. Everyone knows Noah's Ark, right? But did you know there are over 200 different versions of that same story? From Hindu mythology to Aztec legends, from Chinese chronicles to Sumerian tablets, every corner of the world tells the same basic tale. Tonight, I'm going to ask you this question. How can so many different cultures, with no contact between them, tell the exact same story? Is this just coincidence, or are we looking at echoes of a real event buried deep in humanity's collective memory? Our story kicks off 5,000 years ago in Mesopotamia. The Sumerians are known for inventing writing, but their biggest contribution might actually be recording humanity's first great flood story. In the Epic of Gilgamesh, there's this character named Utnapishtim. The god Ea warns him, a great flood is coming that'll wipe out all of humanity. Build a boat, save your family, and every kind of animal. But here's where it gets crazy. The details are incredibly specific. The instructions given to Utnapishtim are super precise. Make the boat 120 cubits long, 120 cubits wide. Build 6 decks. Divide each deck into 7 compartments. Cover the inside with pitch. This sounds remarkably like modern shipbuilding techniques. According to the Sumerian tablets, the gods got fed up with humans making too much noise, and Elon, the head god, decides to wipe out all of humanity. But Ea secretly warns his favorite human, Utnapishtim. What's interesting is how Ea gives this warning indirectly. Wall, listen, read house, understand, tear down the house, build a boat, abandon possessions, save life. Utnapishtim spends 7 days and 7 nights building his boat. Then the flood hits. Morning brought darkness, noon brought hurricane, evening brought lightning. He's the only survivor of a flood that lasts 7 days and 7 nights. When the flood ends, Utnapishtim sends out 3 birds. First a raven, then a swallow, finally a dove. When the dove comes back with an olive branch, he knows the waters have receded. This detail is almost identical to the Hebrew Noah story. This story was written between 2100 to 1800 BC. That's at least 1,000 years older than the Hebrew Bible. Archaeologists found thousands of cuneiform tablets in Nineveh. These tablets don't just have Gilgamesh. There's another flood story called Atrahasis. The Atrahasis story is even more detailed. It explains why the gods sent the flood, how humans were created, and how they rebuilt the world afterward. According to this text, humans were originally created as workers for the gods, but after 1,200 years, humans had multiplied so much that their noise started bothering the gods. Enlil first sends plague, then famine, but humans survive every time. Finally, he decides on the flood. This progression shows interesting parallels to modern pandemic and climate disasters. The Sumerian king list states, "The flood came. After the flood, kingship descended from heaven again." For the Sumerians, this wasn't mythology, it was history. In the king list, pre-flood rulers lived for incredibly long periods, 28,800 years, 36,000 years. But post-flood kings lived normal human lifespans. Archaeologist Leonard Woolley found a 10-foot thick layer of clean clay during his 1929 excavations at Ur. This layer was evidence of a massive flood. Woolley declared, "Here's the proof of Noah's flood." This discovery shows that Sumerian flood stories had real archaeological foundations. But here's what's really wild. These story details didn't stay in the Middle East. Around the world, in completely independent cultures, the same elements keep showing up. Tell us in the comments, could these similarities be coincidence, or are we looking at echoes of a real global event? Now let's see how this same story gets told all around the world. Get ready, because the similarities are going to blow you away. Hindu mythology, Manu and Matsya. In Hindu tradition, a fish appears to the first human, Manu. The fish starts small, but as Manu takes care of it, it grows to enormous size. The fish finally reveals its identity. I'm Vishnu, protector of the universe. Vishnu tells Manu, in 7 days, Pralaya will come, universal destruction. All life will be underwater. Build a great boat. Gather seeds from every living species, sacred books, and wise men. When the flood comes, the giant fish Matsya avatar ties Manu's boat to its horn and guides it to a safe mountaintop. What's interesting is that in the Hindu version, the flood isn't just destruction, it's part of cosmic cycles. Every Kalpa, cosmic day ends with a flood, then a new Kalpa begins. After the flood, Manu is left alone. He performs tapas, spiritual discipline, for a year. Then the goddess Ida appears to him, and together they create new humanity. According to Hindu belief, all humans descend from Manu, which is why humans are called Manava, children of Manu. The oldest version of this story appears in the Shatapatha Brahmana, 800-600 BC. It gets more detailed in the Puranas. In Hindu cosmology, this flood didn't just happen once. It repeats at the end of every Manavana cosmic age. Aztec mythology, Tata-Nena. Aztec cosmology has 5 sun ages. The 4th sun age ends with water. The god Tezcatlipoca, smoking mirror, warns Tata and his wife Nena. Nahui Atil, for water is coming to destroy the world. He tells them to hollow out an Ahuhui te cypress tree to make a boat. You can only eat 2 ears of corn, no more. He warns them. The flood comes, but here's the Aztec twist. Humans don't die, they turn into fish. Tata and Nena survive, but break the rule. They eat fish. So Tezcatlipoca turns them into dogs. This story is fascinating because it reflects the Aztec worldview of cyclical time. Each age ends with a different element: earth, air, fire, water. They believed we're currently in the 5th sun age, 4 movement, which will end with earthquakes. Chinese mythology, Yu the Great and Gun. China has the Gun Yu flood legend. A hero named Gun tries to fight a great flood but fails. His son Yu develops a different strategy. Instead of running from the flood, Yu tries to control it. He works for 13 years, digging channels, building dikes, redirecting waters. This is China's first hydraulic engineering project. What's fascinating about this story is Yu's methodical approach. Heroes in other cultures get saved through divine help, but Yu defeats the flood through human intelligence and hard work. This reflects Chinese culture's pragmatic approach. In the Shujing, Book of Documents, Yu says, trying to block water is useless. You need to direct its natural flow. This is a fundamental principle of modern hydraulic engineering. It's also archaeologically supported. In 2016, scientists discovered there really was a major flood on the Yellow River around 1920 BC. A landslide at Jishi Gorge created a flow of 500,000 cubic meters per second. Yu's story might not be just legend. It could be based on a real historical event. Native American Lenape and Ojibwe traditions. In North America, the Lenape tribe tells it in their Wallam Olam Red Record. Great water came from the north. The earth was completely covered. Only a few people survived on the great turtle's back. In Ojibwe tradition, Ninabozo trickster spirit recreates the world after the flood. Muskrat brings up some soil from underwater, and Ninabozo expands it to create the new continent. Cherokee have a different version. Great water comes, only Kitowa Mountain stays above water. Those who shelter there become ancestors of the new world. These stories are interesting because they show correlation with glacial lake bursts in the Great Lakes region. The Missoula floods, Lake Agassiz, real geological events could be the source of Native American flood myths. Australian Aboriginal Streamtime flood stories. Australian Aboriginals have rainbow serpent legends. This giant snake sends great floods that shape the landscape. Different tribes have different versions. In Wardaman tradition, Jarapiri's snake brought great rains. All valleys filled up. People fled to high rocks. What makes this interesting is that Aboriginal stories could be 40,000 plus years old. These might be the oldest flood memories. Greek mythology, Deucalion and Pyrrha. Zeus gets fed up with humanity's immorality during the Bronze Age and sends a great flood. Deucalion and his wife Pyrrha build a chest and survive. Thanks to Prometheus's warning, it rains for 9 days and 9 nights. After the flood, they climb Mount Parnassus. They consult the oracle at Themis's temple. Throw your mother's bones over your shoulders. Deucalion figures it out. Mothers are the earth. Bones are stones. As they throw stones, Deucalions become men. Pyrrhas become women. This is how new humanity gets created. This story was written by Hesiod in the 8th century BC, but it comes from older oral tradition. In Apollodorus's version, it's more detailed. The flood lasts 9 days. They perform sacrifice rituals after leaving the boat. Africa Yoruba and Mandinka stories. Africa has fewer flood myths because of different geography, but Yoruba have the Olokun sea god legend. Olokun got angry, sent his waters over the earth. Only the hills at Afe stayed above water. Mandinka have similar stories. Ola sent great water, only people in the mountains survived. South America, Inca and Guarani. Incas tell how the god Viracocha sent a flood to destroy the previous human generation. He only created new humanity from Lake Titicaca at Tiwanaku. Guarani say great water came. Gorai and Japiku climbed to the top of a palm tree. They waited there. When water went down, they built the new world. All these stories have common elements: divine warning or cause, boat/vessel/high place construction, family plus animal seed saving, specific duration, 7 days nights very common, landing on mountain, high place, sending out birds, extremely widespread, building new world, repopulation. These similarities are too specific and widespread to be coincidence. How does modern science explain these stories? Surprisingly, real historical events support these legends. Sea Deluge Hypothesis, the 1990s revolution. In the 1990s, geologists William Ryan and Walter Pittman proposed a revolutionary theory. Around 5600 BC, the end of the Ice Age caused the Mediterranean to catastrophically flow into the Black Sea. Back then, the Black Sea was a freshwater lake, 150 meters lower than today. It was surrounded by fertile farmland, forested shores, fishing villages. But when European glaciers melted, Mediterranean sea levels rose. The critical point was the Istanbul Strait. Back then, this was a narrow, shallow stream bed. When Mediterranean pressure increased, this natural dam burst. Water 200 times the power of Niagara Falls poured into the Black Sea. The scale of this event was incredible, a wall of water advancing 50 kilometers per day. The Black Sea's surface rose 15 centimeters daily. Coastal villages went completely underwater within hours. According to Ryan and Pittman's calculations, this event lasted 300 days. The Black Sea's area doubled. Its level rose 150 meters. Millions of people had to migrate. This hypothesis got supported when Stone Age structures were actually found under the Black Sea. In 2000, Ballard's team found the ancient shoreline at 95 meters depth. There were wooden remains, pottery shards, even traces of human settlements. This discovery was revolutionary because it perfectly matched the geographic origin of flood myths. It showed how stories from people living in this region could spread worldwide through oral tradition. Post-glacial flooding, global scale events. The end of the last ice age, 11,700 BC, raised global sea levels by 120 meters. But these weren't gradual changes, they were sudden. Lake Missoula example. There was a giant lake in Montana, dammed by glacial ice. When the climate warmed, the dam collapsed, and the lake emptied into the Pacific in 48 hours. This completely changed Washington state's geography. It created the geological formations called channeled scablands. Lake Agassiz was North America's largest glacial lake. Its collapse sent massive water flows to Hudson Bay and the Atlantic. This could be the source of Native American flood myths in that region. European flood events also happened. Baltic Ice Lake, Doggerland, going underwater. These events could be at the root of European flood traditions. Meltwater pulse events, sudden water bursts. Scientists discovered meltwater pulse events, MWP1, a 14,600 BC, and MWP1b, 11,500 BC, were the biggest ones. During these events, giant glacial dams would collapse. Ancient lakes would empty into oceans within days. This created tsunamis, megafloods, sudden sea level rises. During MWP1A, sea level rose 20 meters in just 500 years. For coastal communities, this was an apocalyptic event. Comet impact theory, Younger Dryas. Researchers like Graham Hancock and Randall Carlson proposed that a comet impact around 10,900 BC suddenly ended the Ice Age and caused global floods. The Younger Dryas impact hypothesis, platinum anomalies, microdiamonds, impact glass have been found in North America and Europe. These could be evidence of cosmic impact. This impact could have melted ice sheets, creating massive floods. It also could have created a nuclear winter effect, starting the Younger Dryas cold period. Jishi Gorge flood, real-time validation. In 2016, Wu Qinglong and his team found a giant landslide at Jishi Gorge in China. This event from 1920 BC dammed the Yellow River for 9 months. Then the dam collapsed, creating a catastrophic flood, 500,000 1 million cubic meters per second water flow. That's 5 times the Amazon's flow rate. This flood put 2,000 square kilometers underwater, exactly the region and time of Yu the Great's legend. This discovery is revolutionary because for the first time we can exactly match a flood myth with a real geological event. Yu's story isn't mythology, it's documentary. Volcano-induced tsunamis, their eruption. Around 1600 BC, the Santorini Therae volcano exploded. This was one of history's biggest volcanic explosions. The blast created massive tsunamis in the Mediterranean. The Minoan civilization on Crete took major damage. Tsunamis also reached the Greek mainland. This event could be the source of the Deucalion flood myth. Then Apollodorus's version. The flood lasts 9 days and 9 nights. Volcanic tsunami aftershocks could explain this duration. The Therae explosion also created a volcanic winter. Ash clouds blocked the sun. Global temperature dropped. This could explain Dark Age motifs in flood stories. Asteroid impact theories. Burkle crater. Dallas Abbott and her team claimed there was an ocean asteroid impact around 2800 3000 BC. Burkle crater near Madagascar is 29 kilometers in diameter. This impact could have created global tsunamis. Impact debris has been found in Madagascar, Australia, and American coasts. The timing is interesting. It matches the period when many flood myths are dated. Aboriginal flood stories, Pacific Islander traditions, even some American flood myths could be from this time frame. Regional flood events, local origins. Some flood myths come from local geological events. Mesopotamia has periodic mega-floods of the Tigris and Euphrates. Sediment cores show extraordinary flood layers between 2900 to 2750 BC. In the Indus Valley, climate change and river course changes around 1900 BC caused the collapse of Harappan civilization. The Nile had an extreme flood period around 2200 BC. Egyptian records say 7 years of high floods, then 7 years of low floods. This could be connected to the biblical 7 years of plenty famine motif. Archaeological evidence. Underwater cities. Sunken ancient settlements are being found worldwide. Dwarka, India. Krishna's legendary city was found in the Arabian Sea. It went underwater around 1500 BC. Yonaguni, Japan. Underwater monument complex could be 10,000 plus years old, left over from the last ice age, submerged by sea level rise. Atlat Yam, Israel. 9,000-year-old Neolithic village in the Mediterranean. Even freshwater wells went underwater, suddenly abandoned. These archaeological finds show that flood myths have real historical basis. Climate science validation. Modern climate science confirms that dramatic climate changes really happened. Ice core data shows sudden global cooling around 8200 BC. This happened when a massive freshwater pulse disrupted Atlantic circulation. Tree ring studies show global drought around 2200 BC, followed by extreme wet periods. Coral growth patterns reveal abrupt sea level changes. This scientific data supports the climatological accuracy of ancient flood stories. Do these scientific findings convince you, or should flood myths stay purely mythological? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. So why is humanity so attached to these stories? Flood myths aren't just historical records. They carry deep psychological and philosophical meanings, divine justice, and moral order theme. All flood myths share a common theme: humanity's moral collapse and divine punishment. This shows that the belief evil gets punished is universal. In Sumer, gods get annoyed by noise. This symbolizes social disorder. In the Bible, moral corruption is clearly stated. The earth was filled with violence. In Hindu tradition, cosmic cycles get disrupted. In Aztec stories, natural balance gets upset. Every culture used these stories to explain the consequences of social collapse. Think about modern parallels: environmental pollution, climate change, social inequality. These are also seen as modern sins, leading to flood-like consequences. What's interesting is that all cultures have the chosen person motif. Noah gets chosen for righteousness, Utnapishtim for divine favor, Manu for dharma, Deucalion for piety. This shows the belief that moral behavior is ultimate protection, rebirth, and cosmic renewal. Flood myths are also hope stories. There's no complete annihilation. Chosen people survive and rebuild the world. In Hindu cosmology, this is very clear. Every pralaya, dissolution, is followed by srishti, creation. Flood isn't destructive, it's regenerative. The old, corrupt world gets cleansed. A fresh start is given. Christian interpretation is the same. The rainbow covenant symbolizes new beginning. Noah's sacrifice ritual marks the start of a new world order. This regeneration theme addresses a fundamental need in human psychology: hope in the face of catastrophe. No matter how bad things get, renewal is possible. Collective trauma and memory preservation. As anthropologist Claude Lévi-Strauss said, myths serve an important social function, transforming traumatic experiences into meaningful narrative. Catastrophic floods were ultimate trauma for ancient communities. To understand these events, to find meaning, they got placed in divine frameworks. In oral tradition, traumatic memories are best preserved in story format. Epic narratives, detailed instructions, emotional content, these stick in memory. Flood myths were actually ancient early warning systems. They encoded the message: when these conditions happen, make these preparations. Social cohesion and group identity. These stories also created social unity, saying we're all descendants of the same flood survivors, strengthened tribal bonds. A shared origin story is the foundation of group identity. The narrative: we're survivors, we're chosen people, we're resilient, boosted collective self-esteem. Modern examples: children of Holocaust survivors, 9/11 survivors, natural disaster communities. They all develop strong bonds through shared trauma, environmental awareness, and sustainability messages. Flood myths also function as environmental warnings. The universal message is: if you disrupt natural balance, consequences will be severe. Noah's rainbow covenant, God's promise, I won't send another flood, actually implies human responsibility. There's a counter-promise: you also maintain moral order. Modern climate activists reference flood myths. The narrative we're causing another flood through global warming is very powerful. Archetypal psychology and collective unconscious. According to Carl Jung's theory, flood myths express collective unconscious archetypes. Water symbolizes the unconscious mind. Flood represents overwhelming emergence of repressed emotions. Survival represents consciousness's triumph. From this perspective, flood myths symbolize universal human psychological experiences: overwhelming emotions, loss of control, need for rebirth, modern manifestations, and future evolution. Flood myths are evolving in modern culture. Hollywood disaster movies, 2012, The Day After Tomorrow, Waterworld. These are modern flood myths. Climate change narratives, sea level rise, coastal flooding, extreme weather, contemporary expressions of ancient fears. Digital age floods, information overload, viral content, floods, social media, tsunamis. Metaphorical flood language is dominant. In many cultures, flood survival represents spiritual initiation. The old self dies, a new self is born. Baptism rituals derive from this concept. Water submersion, symbolizing death and rebirth. Modern therapy also has flooding techniques, controlled exposure to overwhelming trauma to achieve healing. How do you think flood myths will evolve in the future? Will climate change create new flood stories? Could we have virtual reality floods, space-based floods? Share your thoughts. In tonight's epic journey, we've deeply explored flood myths from around the world, from Sumer's Epic of Gilgamesh to Hindu Manu stories, from Aztec Tata-Nena to China's Yu the Great. Every culture has preserved and passed down its own flood narrative. These similarities are too specific and widespread to be coincidence. Over 200 cultures share the same basic elements: divine warning, boat building, animal seed saving, mountain landing, world renewal. These universal patterns are either collective memory of real historical events or humanity's shared archetypal experiences. Modern science shows us that catastrophic water events really happened in the past. The Black Sea Deluge around 5600 BC, post-glacial flooding from 15,000 years ago, meltwater pulse events creating sudden sea level changes, local megafloods documented in every region. The most exciting discovery is the Yu the Great example. In 2016, scientists found exact geological evidence, the 1920 BC Jishi Gorge flood, exactly matching the legendary timeline. This is the first time we can perfectly correlate a flood myth with an actual geological event. But these stories aren't just about past events. They address fundamental human experiences, moral consequences, divine justice, survival instinct, community bonding, environmental awareness, spiritual transformation. In the modern world, flood myths are evolving climate change narratives, disaster movies, digital floods, the same archetypal fears and hopes expressing in contemporary forms. What do flood myths mean for the future? Climate change is causing real sea level rise. Coastal cities are at risk. Extreme weather events are increasing. Maybe new flood myths will develop: Miami going underwater, Netherlands dike failures, Pacific Island nations displacement. These could be the basis for future flood legends. Technology is also adding new dimensions: data floods, information tsunamis, virtual reality floods. Metaphorical language is evolving, but core human fears stay the same. The ultimate message of flood myths is this: humanity always survives. No matter what catastrophe comes, life finds a way. Community gets rebuilt, stories get preserved, wisdom gets transferred. This resilience is the greatest strength of human spirit. Flood survivors, real or legendary, represent human capacity for adaptation, renewal, hope. Every flood myth basically says, we survived before, we can survive again. Destruction isn't final. Renewal is possible. The future exists. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit like mites. Producing this content requires serious research. Don't forget to subscribe for more connections between ancient wisdom and modern science. Share in the comments, which flood myth do you find most compelling? Are there flood legends in your local area? Is climate change creating modern flood myths? Your thoughts on ancient wisdom's modern relevance? And most importantly, do you have flood stories in your family traditions? Did your grandparents tell stories about extreme weather events? It's crucial to preserve these oral traditions. Remember, every generation inherits and adapts its own flood myths. You also have the responsibility to be part of this eternal human story. Topics we'll explore in future videos. Lost Atlantis, flood myth or real civilization? Ancient navigation. How did flood survivors reach different continents? Genetic studies. DNA evidence for population bottlenecks. Archaeological deep dive. Underwater cities around the world. Keep joining us on this ancient mysteries journey. And remember, after every ending comes a new beginning, just like in flood stories. No matter what floods, literal or metaphorical, come our way, human spirit endures. Waters recede, life returns, stories continue. See you in the next epic adventure.